Ladakh, a place known for its picturesque locations, Buddhist temples, and pristine environment, has become the site of widespread protests, violence, and arrests.
दिल्ली राजधानी तक अपनी व्यथा सुनाने के लिए 30 दिन 150 लोग 1000 किलोमीटर।
The standoff between youth-led demonstrators and security forces was triggered by a long-standing demand for statehood and constitutional protection under the 6th schedule. But why are Ladakhis demanding statehood? Why did negotiations with the government fail? And why did the peaceful movement spiral into violence now? To decipher that, we need to go back to the time when Ladakh was part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Ladakh's demand for statehood is not new. The issue dates back to 1947, when British India was partitioned to form today's India and Pakistan. Ladakh was part of the newly formed state of Jammu and Kashmir. But not everyone in the region wanted to be part of the state. Buddhist majority Leh wanted to define its own political future as a separate union territory, while Muslim majority Kargil wanted to remain aligned with Jammu and Kashmir. The demand for union territory status was spearheaded by the Ladakh Buddhist Association, a socio-cultural organization that first took shape in 1931 as the Young Men's Buddhist Association. During the late 1960s, they scaled down their demand for an autonomous region. They believed that the amendment of Article 370 was politically infeasible at the time. But that changed in 2019 when Prime Minister Modi-led central government revoked Article 370 and carved out Ladakh as a separate union territory.
शक्तियों का प्रयोग करते हुए राष्ट्रपति संसद की सिफारिश पर यह घोषणा करते हैं कि यह दिनांक जिस दिन भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा इस घोषणा पर हस्ताक्षर किए जाएंगे और इसे सरकारी गैजेट में प्रकाशित किया जाएगा, उस दिन से अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे, सिवाय खंड 1 के नामक तदनुसार पढ़ा जाएगा।
There were celebrations in Leh, while Kargil continued to oppose the move. But the jubilation in Leh soon soured. Under the new arrangement, Ladakh did not have a legislature. Ladakhis felt that the new system diminished their autonomy and representation. And since 2021, they have been leading a peaceful movement seeking statehood, job quotas and additional seats in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. They are also demanding a special status for Ladakh, which they claim is essential to preserve their distinct identity and culture.
I keep my finger crossed.
And fight on.
Yes. और हम अपने स्ट्रगल को लॉन्ग टर्म मानते हैं.
Okay.
हमने यूटी के लिए 70 साल हमने जद्दोजहद किया, तो स्टेटहुड के लिए भी हम जद्दोजहद करेंगे.
Since 2021, several campaigns and protests were held for statehood and special protection. This prompted the government to form a high-powered committee in January 2023. The committee was headed by Minister of State for Home Nityanand Rai. It comprised members of the Ladakh Buddhist Association and other representatives. But all of them rejected the committee, saying only pro-government members were picked. The committee was reconstituted in November that same year, but the talks again broke down in March 2024. It was then that activist Sonam Wangchuk stepped in. He sat on an indefinite fast in October to draw the government's attention to their demands. Subsequently, the Ministry of Home Affairs agreed to resume talks. The high-powered committee, including leaders from Leh and Kargil, met on December 3, 2024, followed by another meeting on Jan 15, 2025. The talks started gaining momentum in May, when the members also met Home Minister Amit Shah. The last meeting was held on June 3rd, following which President Draupadi Murmu notified 4 regulations for the Union Territory of Ladakh. It defined new policies on reservation, languages, domiciles, and the composition of hill councils for Ladakh. The regulations paved the way for an 85% reservation for the people of Ladakh in government jobs. But the concessions were not enough. Ladakhi leaders pointed out that their core demands of statehood and inclusion in the 6th schedule were still not met. Ladakhis decided to protest again. Early in September, local activists led by activist Sonam Wangchuk began a hunger strike. But on September 24th, the largely peaceful protest took a violent turn. Some of the protesters set government buildings and a BJP office on fire. To quell the unrest, the administration deployed security personnel. A clash then erupted between the protesters and the security forces, killing 4 people and leaving at least 100 injured. The administration swiftly imposed additional measures. More forces were deployed, curfews imposed, and the internet was cut off. It imposed prohibitory orders across Leh and parts of Kargil, barring people from gathering in public spaces. In the crackdown that followed, several people involved in the protests were detained. Wangchuk was detained under the National Security Act and subsequently imprisoned in Jodhpur. The central government pinned the blame on the activist for the September 24th violence. Ladakh's top cop even hinted at Pakistan's role in the violence. Director General of Police SD Singh Jamwal raked up Wangchuk's past visit to Pakistan and linked him to a Pakistani intelligence operative who was arrested in August. The government also cancelled the FCRA license of Wangchuk's NGO, Students' Educational and Cultural Movement of Ladakh. The license to receive foreign funding was cancelled, citing alleged violations. Following the unrest and Wangchuk's arrest, representative bodies of Leh and Kargil withdrew from the negotiations with Centre. The next round of talks was scheduled for October 6th. The Ministry of Home Affairs soon issued a statement. The government said that it had been actively engaging with the representatives of Leh and Kargil and that they were open to further discussions. The centre even promised to address Ladakh's grievances. But the government's assurances were not enough. The people of Ladakh vehemently condemned the administration's attempt to paint Wangchuk as an anti-national. They questioned the timing of the government's move to cancel registrations of Wangchuk's NGOs. Wangchuk's wife, Gitanjali Angbo, called it an attempt to silence Wangchuk and weaken the Ladakhi movement.
किस एंगल से वो आदमी एंटी नेशनल हो सकता है? जो आदमी चाइना को बॉयकॉट कर रहा था, चाइना की जब यूटी गवर्नमेंट था लद्दाख में, जब चाइना के साथ हमारा वॉर चल रहा था, तब यूटी गवर्नमेंट ने चाइना के टैबलेट्स खरीदे थे. उनको आंसर देना चाहिए कि जब चाइना के साथ वॉर चल रहा है तो वो क्यों चाइनीज टैबलेट्स खरीद रहे थे. सोनम तो तब एंटी चाइना की बात कर रहे थे. Not with bullet but with wallet we have to fight them. तो ऐसा इंसान कैसे एंटी नेशनल हो सकता है? फरवरी में हम एक कॉन्फ्रेंस पे गए थे जो यूएन और डॉन मीडिया ने ऑर्गेनाइज किया था और वो क्लाइमेट चेंज पे था. तो उसमें अगर कॉन्फ्रेंस पे इंसान जाए तो वो क्या बिहाइंड द सीन सिर्फ ISI एजेंट ही हो सकता है? ये कहाँ का लॉजिक है और क्या एविडेंस है?
But the government is not ready to back off from the allegations against Wangchuk. He remains under detention and is likely to face charges under the NSA. And that's caused a stalemate between the government and Ladakhi leaders. Stakeholders from Leh and Kargil have refused talks until justice and peace are restored. So, for now, the road to peace and Ladakhi statehood looks uncertain.
भारत माता की, भारत माता की.
For a region long known for peace, the September bloodshed marked a dark chapter in Ladakh's history.